We'd have to ask, where would our pantomime tradition be today without the work of Edgar Taylor and David Jardine? Where would our English pantomime tradition, where would our British pantomime tradition, our United Kingdom pantomime tradition be without the work of these two barristers and of George Cruikshank? And here are some illustrations of the Cruikshank um, publication that they all worked on in 1823, so 200 years ago this year. These two Germanophile barristers sat down, they met in a club in London and agreed to translate the Grimm fairy tales. And, so we have knowledge of Hansel and Gretel, Snow White, Rumpelstiltskin, all of these extraordinary stories because of that meeting in the club. These stories come to us from the German into English, and they become part of our English heritage. And it's extraordinary. This is a year of centenaries. We've got the we've got the celebration of the translation of the Grimm fairy stories. We've also got this is the year when Walt Disney moved from New York, from the Laugh-O-Grams, to California, to Hollywood, where he started his career, starting initially making films about Alice in Wonderland, combining live action and animation, very inventive. Then going on to develop the Oscar, the rabbit, which was then taken from him, and he was terribly depressed about that. But he sort of tightened his belt, and he claims he took a train ride and invented Mickey Mouse. But in fact, there's quite a lot of evidence that Mickey Mouse was designed on the animator's drawing board by Owix and probably others. But Disney was the great storyteller, and it started again 100 years ago this year. Though it is, I think it's no, it's only in 1928 that Steamboat Willie, the first talking animated cartoon, not the first Mickey Mouse cartoon, but the first to be released. There were two others which he'd made because of this complexity that he was still involved in the Oswald the Lucky Rabbit stuff, which had been taken over by another company that had got its copyright. So you have to be very careful with copyright and with who you surrender your rights to your material to, because even the greats fell into misery because of that. And indeed, that's one reason why Pirates of Penzance was written. It was written partly to challenge the copyright chaos that came with HMS Pinafore, with Gilbert and Sullivan, and Cruikshank. Cruikshank was a bit of a rascal. This fellow who illustrated these Grimm's fairy tales. So he was a ferocious cartoonist who pocketed £100 ago from the royal family to make sure that he didn't caricature the king in a lascivious way. And when he illustrated Oliver Twist, he claimed that he was the person who had the idea for the story, not Dickens. It's extraordinary chutzpah, but but Dickens is defined very much, as indeed are the Grimm's fairy tales, by Cruikshank. Dickens also is defined by Fizz as well. These amazing illustrators and this amazingly rich uh, history of storytelling which we've got, uh, which which complements our own native storytelling of Jack the Giant Killer and Tom Thumb, and the parallels which we found in the early part of the 19th century were present in the German stories as well. And as I say, such richness, such invention, paralleled by inventive and rich uh, illustrations, which start this tradition of the illustrated storybook and the richness that that accompanies the introduction to literacy in a children's nursery during the Victorian period. That is, of course, the children who have money, who come from richer families. But as we move into the 20th century, all of this becomes available through education and through the library system, and indeed through the wider media of Disney. So it starts here. It starts here.